Hi everyone, this is Nikki. I'm so excited to be here today with another embossing folder technique video. Today we're looking at this adorable paw prints embossing folder from Honeybee Stamps. You'll see it's a little larger than an A2, and we are going to create 4 different cards and make a gift set. We're actually specifically making this gift set for my sister who's a veterinarian, and she's always needing pet sympathy cards and just cards to send to her clients. So I decided that I'd use this wonderful release and create 4 quick cards with this embossing folder that you are going to love. Now, if you are enjoying my videos, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. That helps you find them again. Let me show you what papers we're going to use in case you want to create along with me today. I'm going to use A2 size cards. I'm going to use a black piece of cardstock that can be any color that you want. I'm going to use Bristol Smooth, which is a white cardstock that is great for ink blending. And then I'm going to use 2 pieces of watercolor paper. I am specifically using the Canson XL, and my watercolor pieces, just because my pad of paper is a little bit bigger, I cut them larger, which gives me a little room around the edges if I need to cut off that area. But this is the Canson XL watercolor. I don't consider myself an expert watercolorer, but this paper has worked great for me. Okay, now the name of the game today is Quick and Easy, but doesn't look quick and easy. How about that? So that we can create 4 cards in a little gift set for my sister. Of course, I could keep on making and make a ton of them, but I'm just going to show you 4 so I can show you 4 separate techniques. So we'll start out with our white piece of paper, and we're going to emboss that. It looks beautiful just the way it is, and you could use it this way, but I really love pet cards that do a black and white and red theme. I just think they're just very beautiful. So let me show you how I'm going to get some black on this. So for this simple black and white, I'm going to use my VersaFine Nocturne ink pad, which is a really dark black. And notice I am lightly rubbing across the top. Take your time with this so that you don't get black on your background. Now, if your embossing machine or sandwich is not creating enough definition in your image to be able to swipe like this and not be hitting the background, one of 2 things is going on. Either you don't have a deep enough impression so that these items stick up off the page, or you're pressing too hard with your ink pad. It's much better to slowly go over this multiple times, building up your black color, than to poke and press really hard and end up with that black ink on the background so that you don't have this crisp white and black definition. And you notice I turn my paper, and that just helps me be a little bit easier with my ink pad. I'm much better at rubbing the ink from this direction versus trying to go back and forth and not press too hard. If I want a light application, I'm better doing the turning than I am anything else. So you can always go back, and if there's a certain paw or something that you're missing, try to press a little bit harder on it, but generally just building it up is all that it requires. Okay, and look at it. It just looks beautiful, and you could make this darker if you want to. If you want to keep adding layers, feel free. I like the way that it looks right now. So now I'm going to show you quick with black, and then we're going to go into some rainbow type cards that look really difficult but are also super easy. So I'm going to use the embossing folder on black cardstock as well, because like I said, we're kind of going with that black and white and red theme. And look at how gorgeous this looks. I love embossing black paper. I think it just looks elegant and beautiful, especially if you've got a great embossing folder that gives so much detail like this one. So we're going to finish these cards at the end. Next, we're doing rainbows. So take your watercolor paper. I am not an expert distress sprayer, but I'm tired of not using these sprays and decided that it was time to create a rainbow. So I grabbed my distress oxides, and of course I'll list all of these colors for you, and I'm going to use the pink, this nice yellow, which I believe is fossilized amber, and a blue, and I'm kind of mixing them all together and trying to overlap the colors a little bit to make my rainbow a little more defined. So I'm just going back in, adding a little bit more color to the area, and really just being kind of messy with this. All I did was add layers because I like really bright rainbows. And so I'm just using the blue, the yellow, and the pink, and I'm letting the mixture of those colors create the others. So we got pink, we got the yellow. The green right here is just the mixture of the yellow and the blue. And I'm adding up lots of layers to get a good coverage. The only thing I did to this paper before I started spraying on it was add just a little spritz of water. So I didn't do a whole lot of prep or anything like that, and it turns out great. I did use some heat to dry it so it doesn't all run off the edges. And I wear gloves doing this because I just make a huge mess and these inks will stain your fingers. So if you don't want that to happen, then you may want to wear some gloves. And I heat from the back, from the front. The back's a mess. But just so that I'm getting it nice and flat and it's not super warped. And then I'm still going to let it sit to the side and dry a little bit. So I'm going to come back on film once I've given it several hours to dry. And here's how it looks. Really beautiful, nice rainbow. Now, let me show you what we're going to do. We're going to do something a little different with this embossing folder. You need to know which side is raised up and which side is indented because you've got to decide. On this one, we're going to try some ink swiping techniques. And so we want to press into the paper our design, which means that a lot of people call that debossing. So instead of having your design raised up, you're pressing it in. So the side on the top of my folder is the side that's raised. So I'm going to push that raised part down into the paper. Now, I know someone's going to ask what kind of embossing sandwich I'm using, and I'm using the standard Spellbinders embossing sandwich. Okay, so just using a Spellbinders machine. Here's how it looks. See how that image is pressed into the paper versus up off the paper? This gives us some different ways that we can use it. To do this technique, you need something to hold your paper down, especially when you got watercolor paper like this that might be ever so slightly warped. So I've got a sticky mat, but I'm also adding extra tape so that my design is as flat as it possibly can be, because if you don't get it flat, you're going to get your ink in the wrong places. So I'm adding extra tape to hold this down because, watercolor paper is kind of easily warped. And even though I've dried it flat and we've done all these things, I want to be absolutely sure on this technique because I've created such a beautiful piece here. I do not want to mess it up. Now I'm trying out something different that I haven't tried before. I'm going to use a Distress Oxide ink pad and I'm using black soot. So a lot of times when I'm doing this technique, I'm coming in with a really dark black, but I kind of wanted this to be a little softer since this one specifically is going to be a sympathy card. I wanted to come in with that black and rub it all over this and just be a softer black than super stark contrast. So this black Distress Oxide worked great. To me, this is easier than what we were doing where we rubbed the ink pad on the top of the design because you really have to put a lot of pressure to accidentally press your ink pad into these areas because they're depressed down into the paper. So it really, if you're starting out, this is probably the easiest way to do it. Just keep slowly building up your layers and make sure your paper is flat. Now, I love the beautiful color and all the contrast, but I kept looking at it and thinking, I'm going to keep this pretty simple. I wrapped a little ribbon around it and added my sentiment, but I still wanted to do something else. I thought about putting some sequins on it. I just felt like it needed a little. And so I decided to try stickles, which is basically like glitter glue, and fill in some of these paws. And I have never tried this before, but it ended up looking so good. I just went along like I would kind of do sequins and just kind of made a random assortment of paws to add the glitter glue to. And I know it's so hard to see on camera, but once I started doing this, I almost considered filling all the little paws in with glitter glue, but I thought I'd just leave it like it's paw prints kind of walking across the card. Let me show you up close and try to give you the just effect of that glitter. Can you see those paws? They're so cute. And of course, it goes perfectly with the sentiment that dogs leave paw prints on your heart. I just thought that was so cute. Okay, we're going to do another rainbow card and we're going to use watercolor. Now, don't let this scare you off. Watercolor is very easy in the way that I'm going to do it. You just need a brush and some colors. You don't have to have anything fancy, a little bit of watercolor paper, and we are going to make the messiest watercolor and it's going to look amazing. Now, I'm using the Altenew gouache, I believe is how it's I don't know how it's said. It's Altenew watercolor tubes, basically, and you don't have to have this many colors. You really don't. You can just do like a pink or a red, a yellow, and a blue, and that's gonna allow you to mix all these together. For this one, I just took different stripes, so I did a total of 6 stripes across the page, and I actually recreated this for you because when I did this piece, I had some leftover watercolor, and so I had just done some stripes across the paper because I didn't wanna waste them. So just remember, if you've got this color out, you may as well make some backgrounds. It's amazing what you can turn them into. So when I was looking through my list or my little stack of backgrounds, this is something I came across and I thought, well, we are doing rainbow cards. Why don't I use one of these for the embossing folder? It just gives you some ideas and it helps you with this kind of mass producing. You've already got some options that you've created previously. Why not use them? Break them out and use an embossing folder on them. I bet you have a ton of backgrounds that would look amazing with an embossing folder. So I happen to take advantage of that. And one thing about watercolor that you need to know is that you can always fix it with more water. So just add water. I'm going to dry this and let it sit and dry for a little bit longer, and then we're going to run it through the embossing folder, and I'll show you how awesome it looks. Okay, here's the moment of truth. Look at all of that. That's so beautiful. I saw it and I was just amazed. I don't think I want to do anything else to this panel because it's so gorgeous. I'm going to create some fun die cuts on this one to just make it a little bit more exciting than just a background, but really, you could throw a sentiment on this and be done. So here's our 2 rainbows. So this one is the watercolor rainbow, and then let's look at it with the debossed one that has the ink swiping. The one on the right is the one I use the sprays for. So we got watercolor versus sprays, similar but still different. And so this one I'm going to add some adorable dies. I added a little piece of pink vellum on top, and then I'm going to add a cat with a little cat bed. So I'm just going to show you that. I'm not going to go through the whole die cutting thing. I just want to show you how this card comes together. Added some little pink hearts. These are embellishments, and they are from Trinity Stamps. And I just wanted to put something extra. I just like to have that little extra something fun on a card. And this cat just was dying to have some little hearts around it. So let me show it to you up close. Okay, so it's adorable. Love is a four-legged word, just precious. Now, let me show you some ways to quickly finish our black and white cards. So I did not want to color these stamps. So I decided I would just spray some brown and light brown colors on a page and then stamp. And then I was going to have tons of little things I could die cut. So I went over the paper with some anti-static powder. I'm using a black ink. I'm going to stamp these and clear heat emboss them. And it looks so cute. It looks like it should just be completely random, but it worked perfect to get lots of little animals to make tons of cards. And why you say, do I add the clear embossing over the top of these? Well, I'm on watercolor paper and I want my images to really stand out and have that nice dark black, and I don't want them to smear. So I decided that I would use a clear heat embossing and it just kind of makes them stand out. Can you tell the difference? They just really stand out off the page. Now we'll die cut and we'll make 2 cards. I repeated this with like gray and white. And then I also had this extra piece of paper that was in my little stash of backgrounds and decided that I'd add a nice red heart on this card, which is going to look amazing with that black and white background. And then I grabbed 2 of the dogs that I die cut. These dogs were from the gray and white spray that I did, not the brown. I'm going to show you what we did with all those little brown animals next. So I grabbed a couple dogs and I popped them up on this panel. When you're attaching things to a 3D emboss panel, it's easier to use a double-sided adhesive to get those to stay. So are the cute little brown animals that we did. So the brown and white that we sprayed. Now I've got them lined up on our black background and I'm going to add red hearts. These are similar to what we used on the cat rainbow card, but these are red. They're red and they're see-through, so it's just that subtle pop of red that really makes this card work. Let me show it to you up close once I've put all the hearts on. They are adorable. You don't notice them right at first, and then you just see that little pop of color, and I think it just makes the card. So I really love using it. So here are our 2 where we did black and white and red, and one has a little bit of red, the other one has that large heart. So look at that. Beautiful. Let me show you all the cards right now, too. So we've got our black background, super easy, just added some beautiful stamping to it and those nice little hearts. It just has so much detail because the embossing folder is so amazing. Next, we've got our black and white card with our pretty red heart, and it is so cute. It's got the black and white and gray stamps. So, just some kind of neutral little dogs here, and those stamps have so much detail because they're red rubber stamps. They just have a lot of detail in the dogs. And then let's look at our rainbow cards. So, we got our cute little cat sitting in his bed here in this watercolored rainbow card. He has that nice little piece of pink vellum behind him and some little hearts as well. And then last, we have our other rainbow card. This one is the one where we did the blackout technique, where we rub the ink pad over the top, and it just looks gorgeous. I think that her clients are going to feel very special when they receive one of these cards in the mail, especially if they have lost a pet and they're just so happy to have a handmade card that was made specially for them and shows them some love and kindness during the time of loss. I hope that you enjoyed this video and that it gives you lots of ideas on making a gift set of cards for people. People love having handmade cards, and I know that they will enjoy this. And it's a quick, easy, fun way with embossing folders. Let's go over the techniques that we used. We just embossed colored cardstock, which is what this black is, left it the way it is, and put some beautiful stamps on front. Then we embossed white cardstock and used some ink swiping over the top to bring out the pattern. Next, we created a rainbow effect with the Distress Oxide sprays, and then we ran our ink pad over the top of this image, and it was a debossed image, so a little different pattern. Lastly, we used some watercolor stripes to create a gorgeous effect. All of the products I use will be linked in the description so that you can find them. I hope you have a great day, and thanks so much for stopping by. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe. Bye!